9 months ago, they buried her. Tonight, he's about to marry the woman who smiled at his funeral. But what if the widow wasn't a widow at all? In the next 60 minutes, you'll meet a trauma surgeon who gave birth to triplets, was declared dead on the operating table, and then woke up in a stranger's hospital with no name, no proof, and a family that already moved on. A billionaire husband who grieves on camera. A lover who shows up as savior. A hospital administrator with secrets. And a single twist of DNA that threatens to explode everything. This is not just a story about revenge. It's about identity, greed, and the one truth that can't be erased. Expect shocking twists, two false victories, and a final reveal that changes who inherits a billion-dollar legacy. If you love jaw-dropping twists and real emotional stakes, hit like, drop a comment with what you think happened, share this with someone who loves drama, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the big reveal. The champagne glasses glittered under the Miami moonlight. Amanda Wellington pressed herself against the marble column, her catering uniform borrowed, her hands trembling as she held up the phone to record. Through the camera lens, she watched her husband kiss another woman. Marcus Wellington stood on the oceanside balcony of his $45 million estate, his arms around Vivian Chase. Below them, 200 guests celebrated their engagement. Above them, stars scattered across the Florida sky like shattered diamonds. And hidden in the shadows, Amanda watched the man she'd married 7 years ago promise forever to someone else. 9 months. That's how long she'd been dead. The mansion buzzed with Miami's elite, women in designer gowns, men in custom tuxedos. A string quartet played Pachelbel. Waiters circulated with champagne and caviar. News cameras captured every moment for the society pages. Amanda had walked through the service entrance an hour ago, blending in with the catering staff. No one recognized her. Why would they? Dr. Amanda Wellington had died in childbirth. They'd held a funeral. 400 people attended. Her death certificate was filed with the state of Florida. But here she was, alive, watching her replacement. A reporter's voice carried across the terrace. "Mr. Wellington, you've been through such tragedy. Tell us how you found love again." Marcus smiled that practiced smile Amanda knew so well, the one he used for investors and cameras. "Amanda will always be in my heart. She gave me our 3 beautiful children with her last breath, but I believe she'd want me to be happy, and Vivian makes me happy." Vivian leaned into him, her Valentino gown shimmering. Marcus deserves a second chance at love. We all do. The guests applauded. Amanda's stomach turned. Through the mansion's French doors, she could see Eleanor Wellington, Marcus's mother, holding court with a circle of friends. 9 months is a respectable mourning period, Eleanor was saying. Marcus was destroyed, absolutely destroyed. Vivian helped him heal. Amanda had always liked Eleanor. Her former mother-in-law had sent flowers every week during her pregnancy, had called to check on her, had promised to be there for the birth. Now Eleanor held a champagne flute and celebrated Amanda's replacement. A male guest nearby asked, "What about the children? How are they adjusting?" "Wonderfully," Eleanor replied. "Jackson, Owen, and Lily adore Vivian. She's been so good with them. Like a mother." Like a mother, Amanda's nails dug into her palms. The nanny appeared in the nursery window upstairs, holding Lily, Amanda's daughter. 9 months old now. Amanda had been unconscious in a facility 200 miles away when Lily took her first steps, spoke her first word, celebrated her first Christmas. Her vision blurred. She wiped her eyes quickly, careful not to smudge the makeup that disguised her. Marcus stepped back from Vivian and pulled out his phone. Amanda watched him scroll to his voicemails, saw him press play on one saved message. Even from this distance, she knew which one. The last voicemail she'd ever left him. She'd recorded it 9 months ago in an ambulance, bleeding and terrified. "Marcus, it's me. Contractions started early. I'm at the hospital. Please call me back. I'm scared. I love you." He'd never called back. By the time he'd landed in Miami, she was already gone. Or so he thought. Marcus closed his eyes as he listened. A tear rolled down his cheek. Vivian approached and touched his arm. "Are you okay?" "Just thinking about her," Marcus said. "Is that wrong, on our engagement night?" "It means you loved her deeply," Vivian replied. Her voice was gentle, understanding. "Perfect. That's what makes you ready to love again. Amanda wanted to scream, wanted to run up there and tear Vivian away from him. But she stayed hidden because tonight was just reconnaissance. Tomorrow, everything would change. She'd come back from the dead once already. Tomorrow, she'd do it again. But this time, the whole world would watch. A hand touched her shoulder. Amanda spun around, heart pounding. Dr. Rachel Brooks stood behind her, wearing a guest's evening gown. Amanda's best friend since medical school. The only person who knew she was here. "We need to go," Rachel whispered. "Too many cameras. If someone recognizes you before we're ready—" "I know," Amanda said. She took one last look at Marcus and Vivian, at the life that should have been hers. "Tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Rachel confirmed. "We have all the evidence, the DNA results, the financial records, everything." They slipped out through the service exit into the humid Miami night. Amanda pulled off the catering uniform in Rachel's car, revealing jeans and a t-shirt underneath. "Are you sure about this?" Rachel asked, starting the engine. "Once we expose her, there's no going back." Amanda looked at her reflection in the side mirror. She'd lost 30 pounds. Her hair was shorter, darker. Her face was harder. She barely recognized herself. "I died 9 months ago," Amanda said. "The woman I was died in that delivery room. But I came back, and tomorrow Vivian Chase learns what happens when you try to erase a mother." Rachel pulled onto the highway. Behind them, the mansion glowed like a beacon. Music and laughter carried on the wind. Inside, Marcus Wellington was celebrating his future with a woman who'd paid $750,000 to make his wife disappear. But Amanda had the proof. Bank records showing the payment from Vivian's shell company to Patricia Mills, the hospital administrator. Security footage from the facility where they'd hidden her, medical records proving the body they'd buried wasn't hers. And most importantly, she had the original birth records, the ones that would prove Vivian hadn't just tried to murder Amanda. She'd also stolen the Wellington family fortune by switching Amanda's baby's identity bracelets, making the wrong child appear to be the heir to $4.2 billion. Tomorrow at the engagement party, in front of 200 witnesses and live news cameras, Amanda Wellington would rise from the dead. And when she did, every lie Marcus and Vivian had built would come crashing down. "Are you hungry?" Rachel asked. "You barely ate today." Amanda shook her head. "I can't eat. I keep thinking about them. Jackson, Owen, Lily, my babies. They don't even know I exist." "They will soon," Rachel said. "By this time tomorrow, you'll have your children back." Amanda wanted to believe that, but she'd learned something in the past 9 months. The world wasn't fair. Justice wasn't guaranteed. Sometimes the villains won, but not this time. Not if she had anything to say about it. They drove in silence through the empty streets of Miami, past the hospital where Amanda had almost died, past the apartment building where she'd once lived with Marcus, past the life she'd lost. Tomorrow she'd fight to get it back, or die trying, again. 9 months earlier, Amanda Wellington had been happy. Not perfectly happy. Her marriage had its cracks. Marcus worked too much. He traveled constantly. And lately, he'd been spending a lot of time with his new PR consultant, a woman named Vivian Chase. But Amanda had been pregnant with triplets. Tired, hormonal. She'd convinced herself she was being paranoid. She'd been wrong. 3 days before the delivery, Amanda sat in her medical office at Mercy General Hospital, reviewing patient files. 8 months pregnant, she should have been on maternity leave. But the ER was short-staffed, and Amanda couldn't say no. Being a trauma surgeon wasn't just her job. It was her identity. Albert Rachel Brooks knocked and entered with 2 coffees. "You're still here? It's 9 at night." "Just finishing up," Amanda said, closing a file. "Dr. Stevens takes over my cases tomorrow. I want everything perfect." Rachel set down the coffee and studied her friend. "You look exhausted." "I'm carrying 3 humans. Exhaustion is my baseline." Amanda rubbed her swollen belly. "But they're worth it." "When does Marcus get back from San Francisco?" Amanda checked her phone. No messages. "Tomorrow morning. Big investor pitch tonight." "With Vivian?" Rachel's tone was carefully neutral. Amanda's jaw tightened. "His PR consultant." "Yes." "You don't like her." "I don't trust her." Amanda pulled up her phone and showed Rachel a photo someone had sent her anonymously. Marcus and Vivian at a hotel bar in San Francisco, sitting close, laughing. She looks at him like she wants to devour him. Did you tell Marcus? He says I'm being hormonal and paranoid. Amanda's voice cracked slightly. Maybe I am. Rachel squeezed her hand. Or maybe your instincts are right. You're a doctor. You trust data. What does the data say? Amanda scrolled through her texts from Marcus over the past month. Late-night messages, missed calls. Still in meetings. Don't wait up. Vivian's really impressed the investors. Every text mentioned Vivian. The data says, Amanda said slowly, that my husband is spending more time with her than with me. Talk to him when he gets back. I will. Amanda closed her eyes. Right after I survived delivering 3 babies. They laughed, but Amanda's worry remained. Something was wrong. She felt it in her bones. She just didn't know how wrong. 48 hours later, Category 4 Hurricane Melissa slammed into Miami. Amanda was working the night shift at Mercy General, helping evacuate patients. The storm hit harder and faster than predicted. Wind rattled the windows. Rain hammered the roof. Emergency generators kicked in as power failed. At 11:30, Amanda felt the first contraction. She froze in the hallway, hand on her belly. No, 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 not now. Another contraction hit. Harder. Her water broke. A nurse ran up. Dr. Wellington, are you... Labor, Amanda gasped. Call my husband and get Dr. Brooks. The nurse helped her into a wheelchair. Amanda grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed Marcus. It rang and rang and rang. Voicemail. Marcus, it's me, Amanda said, fighting panic. Contractions started early. I'm at the hospital. Please call me back. I'm scared. Another contraction cut off her words. I love you. She tried again. Voicemail again. 2,000 miles away in San Francisco, Marcus Wellington sat in a conference room with 10 investors in Vivian Chase. The presentation was going well. Numbers on screens, projections showing exponential growth. Wellington Tech was about to secure $200 million in Series B funding. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced down. Amanda calling. He silenced it. Vivian noticed. Is that Amanda? I'll call her back after the pitch, Marcus whispered. The phone buzzed again. He ignored it. In Miami, Amanda was wheeled into the delivery room. Hurricane winds screamed outside. The building shook. Emergency lights flickered. Dr. Rachel Brooks rushed in, already in scrubs. Amanda, what happened? Preterm labor, 34 weeks. Amanda gripped on Rachel's hand. Where's Marcus? I'm sure he's on his way. But he wasn't. He was in San Francisco, watching Vivian present slide after slide, his wife's desperate calls piling up unheard. By the time the pitch ended and investors applauded, Marcus had 15 missed calls from Mercy General Hospital. His blood went cold. He called back immediately. Mr. Wellington, the receptionist said, your wife is in emergency surgery. You need to get here immediately. The room spun. What? Is she? Emergency C-section. Complications. Please hurry. Marcus ran for the exit. Vivian followed. Marcus, what's wrong? Amanda, emergency. The babies. He couldn't form complete sentences. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. You need support, Vivian said firmly. I'm coming. They raced to the airport. Marcus chartered a private jet. During the flight, he paced the cabin like a caged animal, praying, panicking. I should have answered, he kept saying. I should have been there. Vivian stayed calm. You couldn't have known. It's not your fault. But her phone told a different story. While Marcus spiraled, Vivian texted someone. It's happening tonight. Are you in position? The response came instantly. Patricia Mills here, 750,000 confirmed an account. I'm ready. Make it look natural. No questions. Trust me, I've done this before. Vivian deleted the messages. Then she took Marcus's hand and said, she'll be fine. Amanda's strong. Marcus wanted to believe that, but fear gnawed at him. He'd ignored his wife's calls, missed her last message. If something happened to her, he'd never forgive himself. He didn't know it yet, but forgiveness would be the least of his problems. Back in Miami, Amanda was dying. The C-section had gone well at first, 3 babies delivered safely, a boy at 11:47, another boy at 11:49, a girl at 11:52, all tiny but breathing. Then Amanda started hemorrhaging. Blood, so much blood. I need more hands, Rachel shouted. Get to Morrison. Alarm screamed. Nurses ran. Amanda's blood pressure plummeted. Amanda, stay with me. Where? Rachel performed compressions. Don't you dare give up. Amanda's eyes fluttered. She could hear Rachel's voice from very far away, could hear her babies crying, could feel herself slipping away. My babies, Amanda whispered. Protect my babies. You're going to protect them yourself, Rachel insisted. Don't you dare give up, Amanda coded. The monitors flatlined. Rachel grabbed the defibrillator. Clear. Shock. Nothing. Again, 300. Shock. A faint pulse returned. Rachel was sobbing now. I got her back. She's alive. But Amanda wasn't conscious. Her brain had been without oxygen. The damage was catastrophic. Patricia Mills, the hospital administrator, appeared in the doorway. Dr. Brooks, you're too emotionally involved. I'm removing you from this case. What? No, she's my patient and my best friend. That's exactly why you're compromised. Security will escort you out if necessary. Rachel was forced to leave Amanda's side. She looked back once, tears streaming. Something was very wrong. She could feel it. While Rachel was gone, Patricia Mills enacted her plan. She'd been paid $750,000 to make Amanda Wellington disappear, and she knew exactly how to do it. In the hospital morgue, a Jane Doe lay on a slab, an unidentified homeless woman who'd overdosed the night before. Same height as Amanda, similar build. Patricia switched the medical bracelets. Then she triggered the fire suppression system in the morgue. Water poured down, damaging the Jane Doe's body, distorting her features. By the time Marcus Wellington arrived at the hospital 6 hours later, exhausted and terrified, Patricia was ready. Mr. Wellington, she said gravely, I'm so sorry, your wife didn't make it. Marcus staggered. No, that's not possible. The babies are alive and stable. All 3, but Amanda coded 3 times. We couldn't save her. Marcus collapsed against the wall, sobbing. Vivian stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder, her face arranged in sympathetic concern. But inside, she was smiling. Everything was going according to plan. Marcus Wellington had never felt pain like this. He stood in the hospital corridor, his world shattered. Patricia Mills had just told him his wife was dead. Behind him, Vivian Chase waited with practiced sympathy. Around him, the hospital buzzed with organized chaos. Can I see her? Marcus asked. His voice sounded foreign, hollow. Of course, Patricia said. But Mr. Wellington, I should warn you. There was a malfunction in the morgue. The fire suppression system activated. Your wife's body has water damage. It's not how you'd want to remember her. Marcus felt numb. I need to see my children first. Patricia led him to the NICU. 3 tiny babies in incubators. His children, his and Amanda's. A nurse gestured to each one. This is Jackson, your eldest son, then Owen, and your daughter Lily. Marcus pressed his hand against the incubator glass. Jackson, barely 5 pounds, wrapped in a blue blanket, his firstborn son, the heir to the Wellington fortune. Marcus's father Theodore was dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Theodore had established a trust decades ago, back when such language was acceptable. $4.2 billion. The entire Wellington real estate empire, all of it would pass to the eldest legitimate male biological heir of Marcus Wellington, Jackson. This tiny, fragile baby would someday inherit billions. Marcus touched the glass. Hi, buddy, I'm your dad. Your mom fought so hard for you. Behind him, Vivian watched. She studied the babies carefully. Jackson, Owen, Lily. One of them was the key to everything, but not the one Marcus thought. 20 minutes later, Patricia Mills returned. Mr. Wellington, we need to discuss organ donation. Your wife signed donor consent forms. What? Marcus's head spun. I can't think about this now. I understand, but time is critical. We need to transfer her to a research facility for the organ recovery process. Marcus wasn't thinking clearly. Grief had shattered his ability to reason. Whatever Amanda wanted, just do whatever she wanted. Patricia had what she needed, legal consent to transfer the body, except the body she'd transfer wasn't a body at all. Amanda Wellington was alive. Barely. Brain damaged, in a coma. But alive. Patricia arranged the transport that night. An ambulance took Amanda to St. Catherine's Neurological Research Institute, 200 miles away. Her identification was removed. Her records were altered. She became Jane Doe number 4739. Meanwhile, the Jane Doe from the morgue became Amanda Wellington, deceased. Patricia forged the dental records, arranged for the body to be cremated quickly. Closed casket, of course. The water damage made viewing impossible. It was a perfect plan. Almost. Patricia missed one detail, one crucial mistake. Dr. Rachel Brooks kept copies of everything. Years of medical training had taught Rachel to document thoroughly. That night, during the delivery, she'd recorded the baby's birth times and blood types. Baby number 1, born at 11:47 p.m., blood type O positive. Baby number 2, born at 11:49 p.m., blood type AB negative. Baby number 3, born at 11:52 p.m., blood type A positive. Rachel filed these records in her personal files. Standard practice. She always kept backup documentation. She didn't know these records would later save everything. The next morning, Rachel tried to visit Amanda. "I need to see Dr. Wellington." The nurse checked the computer. Dr. Wellington was transferred to a research facility. Organ donation consent. What? No, she wasn't brain dead. I stabilized her. She had a pulse. According to these records, she was declared brain dead at 4:15 a.m. The family consented to organ donation for neurological research. Rachel's blood went cold. Where was she transferred? "I'm sorry, that information is confidential." Rachel knew something was wrong, but she had no proof, no authority. She was just a friend, not family. She attended the funeral 5 days later. 400 people filled the cathedral. Marcus delivered a eulogy, his voice breaking. "Amanda gave me everything. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of her believing in me. Her last act was giving me our 3 children. And I wasn't there. I was in another city, ignoring her calls. I'll carry that guilt forever." Rachel watched the closed casket. She didn't believe Amanda was in there. But what could she do? The death certificate was filed. The cremation was scheduled. She went home and pulled out the birth records she'd saved, something Patricia Mills said had bothered her. When Rachel was removed from Amanda's case, she'd been gone for maybe 20 minutes. When she returned, the babies already had identification bracelets. Rachel looked at the baby's current medical files. Jackson, the eldest, had blood type AB negative. But according to Rachel's delivery records, the baby born first had blood type O positive. Someone had switched the bracelets. Rachel's hands shook as she realized what this meant. The baby everyone believed was Jackson wasn't the firstborn at all. He was Owen, born 2 minutes later. The true firstborn was wearing Owen's bracelet, which meant the Wellington fortune would go to the wrong child. And if someone had deliberately switched the babies, it wasn't an accident. It was fraud. But why? Rachel needed more information. She started investigating Patricia Mills, found her financial records through a medical database she had access to. And there it was, a deposit of $750,000, dated the night of Amanda's delivery. Source, a shell company called Chase Consulting, LLC. Vivian Chase, Marcus's new girlfriend, had paid Patricia Mills $750,000 the night Amanda died. Rachel sat in her apartment, documents spread across her table, and understood the horrible truth. Vivian hadn't just wanted Marcus. She'd wanted control of the Wellington fortune. So she'd paid to have Amanda killed and the baby switched. Make the wrong baby the heir. Marry Marcus. Control the child. Control the money. Rachel grabbed her phone to call the police, then stopped. Who would believe her? She had financial records that might be coincidence, medical records that could be explained away as clerical errors, no concrete proof of murder. And Vivian clearly had connections. Patricia Mills wouldn't have risked this alone. Someone powerful was protecting them. Rachel needed more evidence. Or better yet, she needed Amanda. But Amanda was dead. Wasn't she? Rachel thought about that transfer. Organ donation for neurological research. What if Amanda wasn't dead at all? What if Patricia had hidden her somewhere? It took Rachel 3 weeks to track down St. Catherine's Neurological Research Institute, another week to confirm they had a Jane Doe admitted the night of Amanda's death. Rachel drove there on her day off, asked to see Jane Doe number 4739. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said. "That patient is in our research program. No visitors." "I'm a doctor. I'd like to review her case." "Not authorized. Dr. Morrison handles all research patients personally." Rachel went home empty-handed, but now she knew Amanda was alive, somewhere in that facility. She just needed to figure out how to prove it and how to get her best friend back. Meanwhile, in Miami, Marcus Wellington slowly rebuilt his life. Vivian helped him with the babies, comforted him during dark nights. Slowly, carefully, made herself indispensable. 6 months after Amanda's death, Marcus took Vivian to dinner. "I don't know how I would have survived without you." "You're stronger than you think," Vivian said. She touched his hand across the table. "Amanda would want you to be happy, Marcus." "Would she?" Marcus looked haunted. "I failed her, ignored her calls, chose a business meeting over her." "You couldn't have known. You're not psychic." "I should have been there." Vivian squeezed his hand. "You're here now for your children. That's what matters." 3 months later, Marcus proposed. On his yacht, surrounded by Miami's elite, he asked Vivian to marry him. She said yes. And upstairs in the nursery, 3 babies slept peacefully: Jackson, Owen, and Lily. They didn't know their mother was alive, didn't know one of them was the victim of identity fraud, didn't know their entire future hung in the balance of lies. But they would. Because 4 months after the proposal, Amanda Wellington woke up. And when she did, everything changed. Amanda's eyes opened to white ceiling tiles and fluorescent lights. She couldn't move, couldn't speak. A breathing tube filled her throat. Panic surged through her. Where was she? Where were her babies? A nurse entered. Young man, kind eyes. "Oh, you're awake. Let me get Dr. Morrison." Amanda tried to speak, couldn't. The tube prevented it. She could only make desperate sounds. Dr. Morrison arrived. 50s, gray hair, professional demeanor. Well, Jane Doe number 4739. Welcome back." "Jane Doe? No, that wasn't right." "You've been in a coma for 4 months, Morrison continued. "Traumatic brain injury from a car accident. You're in St. Catherine's Research Institute. We specialize in coma recovery." Amanda shook her head violently. Wrong, all wrong. 2 days later, they removed the breathing tube. "My name is Amanda Wellington," she rasped. "I'm a doctor, trauma surgeon, Mercy General Hospital in Miami." Morrison showed her a clipboard. "According to your admission records, you're Jane Doe number 4739. You were found unconscious. No identification." "No, I was pregnant, having triplets. I need to call my husband." "Ms. Doe, this is common with traumatic brain injury, false memories, identity confusion." "Check my fingerprints," Amanda screamed. "My medical license. I'm Amanda Wellington." Morrison was patient but firm. "We did check. There's no Amanda Wellington registered in any system. Your organ donor card indicated willingness to participate in research. That's why you're here." "This is insane. I have a husband, children." "You weren't pregnant when you arrived." The words stopped Amanda cold. "What?" "No signs of recent pregnancy. I'm sorry, but I believe you're experiencing false memories from the brain trauma." Amanda started crying. Please, just let me make one phone call." "Once you're medically cleared, right now you need physical therapy. You've been immobile for months." Over the next 6 weeks, Amanda relearned to walk. Her body was weak, atrophied, but her mind was sharp and angry. The nurse who'd first found her awake was named Tommy Rodriguez, 28, friendly, always whistling while he worked. Amanda befriended him. "Tommy, I need your help." "What kind of help?" He glanced around nervously. "Google my name, Amanda Wellington. I'll prove I'm telling the truth." Tommy hesitated, then pulled out his phone. He typed. His face went pale. "Oh my God." He showed her the screen. Miami Herald obituary. Dr. Amanda Wellington, 35, beloved trauma surgeon, dies in childbirth. Survived by husband Marcus Wellington and triplets Jackson, Owen, and Lily. Amanda stared at her own death notice. I died? 8 months ago. Tommy scrolled. Here's your funeral, 400 people. Amanda's world tilted. But I'm alive. I'm right here. Tommy kept scrolling, found society pages. Wait, there's more. Your husband is engaged. He showed her photos. Marcus and Vivian at a charity gala. Marcus and Vivian with the babies. Marcus and Vivian announcing their engagement. He replaced me, Amanda whispered. He thinks I'm dead, and he replaced me. Or someone made him think you're dead. Tommy glanced at the door. Amanda, I need to tell you something. You're not the first Jane Doe Patricia Mills sent here from Mercy General. Tricia Mills, the hospital administrator. Yeah, 5 Jane Does in 3 years, all with Patricia's signature on transfer papers. It always seemed off. Someone faked my death, Amanda said slowly. They made me disappear. But why? Amanda thought about Vivian, about the photos showing her with Marcus and the babies, about engagement announcements. She wanted my life, Amanda said, so she erased me. Over the next month, Amanda formed a plan. Tommy helped her access the facility computers. They found transfer records, financial documents, a trail of evidence pointing to Patricia Mills, and a payment, $750,000 from Chase Consulting LLC, Vivian's company. Amanda stared at the proof. She paid to have me killed. What are you going to do? Get my life back. Tommy helped her escape. He couldn't officially release her, but during a shift change, Amanda simply walked out. No one stopped Jane Doe's from leaving. She took a bus to Miami. 8 hours of watching Florida highways roll past. 8 hours of planning her revenge. She went to her old apartment first. Locks changed. Strangers living there. She went to Mercy General. Security didn't recognize her, asked for ID. She had none. She called Rachel from a payphone. Rachel, it's me. It's Amanda. Long silence. Who is this? This isn't funny. It's really me. I'm alive. Amanda died 8 months ago. I was at her funeral. The body wasn't me. They faked my death. Please, Rachel, meet me. I'll prove it. Rachel agreed, scared, skeptical. They met in an abandoned parking garage. When Rachel saw Amanda's face, she dropped her phone. Oh my God, oh my God. They held each other, crying. How? Rachel kept asking. How is this possible? Patricia Mills, Vivian Chase, they paid to make me disappear. I know. Rachel pulled out her documents. I've been investigating for months. Look at this. Vivian paid Patricia $750,000 the night you died. Amanda studied the financial records. This proves it. There's more. Rachel showed her the birth records. Someone switched the baby's bracelets. The boy everyone thinks is Jackson is actually Owen. The real Jackson has been mislabeled. Why would they switch them? Marcus's father is dying. The Wellington Trust passes to the eldest male heir. That's supposedly Jackson. But if Vivian switched them, she's controlling the wrong child. Amanda's mind raced. She didn't just want Marcus. She wanted the money. If she controls the heir, she controlled billions. Exactly, and with you dead, she can marry Marcus and become stepmother to the heir. Except I'm not dead. No, Rachel smiled grimly. You're not. They spent the next 2 weeks gathering evidence. Rachel ran a DNA test confirming Amanda's identity. They documented everything. The body swap, the financial trail, the bracelet switch. We need to go to the police, Rachel said. No, Amanda shook her head. We go public, at the engagement party, in front of everyone. They can't kill me in front of 200 witnesses and news cameras. When's the party? 3 days. Rachel ran DNA tests on the babies using blood samples from their last pediatric visit. She compared them against the original birth records. The results confirmed it. The babies' identities had been switched. The real Jackson was wearing Owen's bracelet. The $4.2 billion inheritance was going to the wrong child. This is going to destroy them, Rachel said. Good, Amanda replied. They tried to destroy me first. On the night of the engagement party, Amanda borrowed a catering uniform. She walked through the service entrance of her own home, past guards who didn't recognize the ghost they'd buried. She watched Marcus kiss Vivian, watched 200 people celebrate her replacement, watched her children sleep in the nursery upstairs. And she waited. Tomorrow she would rise from the dead. Tomorrow, Vivian Chase would learn what happens when you try to erase a mother. Tomorrow, the truth would explode. But tonight, Amanda Wellington stood in the shadows and remembered something her mother once told her. The most dangerous woman in the world is one who has nothing left to lose. Amanda had lost everything. Her husband, her children, her identity, her life, which made her very dangerous indeed. The engagement party was in full swing when Amanda made her move. She'd shed the catering uniform, wore a simple black dress Rachel had brought. Nothing fancy, she didn't need to be beautiful tonight. She needed to be believable. Theodore Wellington sat in his wheelchair on the terrace, addressing the crowd. 82 years old, dying, determined to see his legacy secured before the end. "Thank you all for coming," Theodore said, his voice weak but clear. "I don't have much time left, but I wanted to see my son Marcus happy again. He's endured such tragedy with grace." The crowd murmured agreement. "Marcus, you've raised 3 beautiful children alone. And now you've found love with Vivian. Next month, when you marry, my grandson Jackson will officially become the heir to the Wellington fortune. $4.2 billion, held in trust until he turns 25. People applauded. Vivian smiled radiantly. "This is my legacy," Theodore finished. Amanda stepped out from behind a column. "Actually, Theodore," she said loudly, "there's been a mistake." 200 heads turned. Eleanor Wellington dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the marble terrace. "Amanda?" Eleanor whispered. Marcus turned, saw her. His face went white. "No," he breathed. "No, this is impossible." Amanda walked through the crowd. People parted like water. News cameras swung toward her. This was being broadcast live. "Hello, Marcus," Amanda said. "Sorry I missed the funeral." Vivian's perfect composure cracked. For just a second, pure panic flashed across her face. Then she recovered. "Everyone, please," Vivian said quickly. "This woman is clearly mentally ill." "I'm Amanda Wellington," Amanda interrupted. "Your fiancé's wife. The woman you paid Patricia Mills $750,000 to murder." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared. How? He couldn't form words. "I buried you. I saw your body." "You saw a body," Amanda corrected. "A Jane Doe from the morgue. Patricia Mills switched us, transferred me to a research facility under a fake identity, left me to rot while you mourned someone else." Eleanor approached slowly, trembling. "Is it really you?" "It's really me, Nai." Eleanor reached out and touched Amanda's face, started crying. "Oh my God, you're alive. You're really alive." Theodore wheeled himself closer. "This is absurd. If you're really Amanda Wellington, prove it." Rachel stepped forward from the crowd, carrying a tablet. "I'm Dr. Rachel Brooks, Amanda's best friend and her obstetrician. I have proof." Yeah, she projected images onto the party's large screen. "First, DNA test results. This woman is Amanda Wellington, 99.99% certainty." The crowd erupted, people talking over each other, cameras flashing. "Second," Rachel continued, "financial records. $750,000 transferred from Vivian Chase's shell company to Patricia Mills the night Amanda died." Marcus turned to Vivian. "You paid to kill her." "No, I didn't. This is a conspiracy. She's lying." "Third," Rachel said, "transfer documents showing Amanda was moved to St. Catherine's Research Institute under a false identity." Eleanor was crying openly now. She pulled Amanda into a hug. "How are you alive? How is this possible?" "They tried to make me disappear," Amanda said, "but I survived." Marcus approached slowly, like Amanda might vanish if he moved too fast. "I don't understand. I mourned you. For months. I was destroyed." "I know. If I'd known, but you didn't. You moved on pretty quickly." Amanda gestured to Vivian. "That's not fair. I thought you were dead." "Fair?" Amanda's voice rose. "Nothing about this is fair, Marcus. I woke up 4 months later with no memory, no identity, convinced by doctors that I'd imagined my entire life. You want to talk about fair?" The crowd watched in stunned silence. This was better than any reality show. Theodore interrupted. "If you're really Amanda, then these children upstairs are yours. We can verify that. DNA test. right now. Already done, Rachel said. She displayed new results. Amanda Wellington is the biological mother of all three children, Jackson, Owen, and Lily. Eleanor sobbed harder. She's really back. My daughter-in-law is really alive. But Vivian wasn't finished. She pulled a folder from her purse with shaking hands. Wait, Vivian said. Everyone wait. I'm not the villain here. Amanda is. She threw papers into the air. They scattered across the terrace. These are paternity test results. I had them run last month because I suspected something. Those babies? They're not Marcus's biological children. The crowd gasped again. Marcus stared at the papers. What? Amanda had an affair, Vivian said. She used IVF with another man's sperm. That's why she went into labor early. She was going to run. Hide the truth. That's a lie, Amanda screamed. Then prove it, Vivian challenged. Test Marcus's DNA against the babies right now. Theodore nodded. Do it. Let's end this. Rachel swabbed Marcus's cheek, ran a rapid paternity test against samples from all three babies. It took 30 minutes, the longest 30 minutes of Amanda's life. The results appeared on the screen. Jackson, 99.97% match. Negative, not biological father. Owen, 99.99% match. Positive, biological father confirmed. Lily, 99.99% match. Come on. Positive, biological father confirmed. The terrace erupted. She did have an affair, Theodore shouted. Marcus stared at Amanda. Jackson isn't mine. That's impossible, Amanda said. Her mind reeled. I never cheated. I never... Liar! Vivian was triumphant now. She faked her death to hide this, to run away with her lover. No, someone tampered with the test. Amanda looked desperately at Rachel, but even Rachel looked confused. Get out, Marcus said quietly. Marcus, please, get out of my house! Security guards grabbed Amanda's arms. Someone switched the samples! Amanda screamed as they dragged her toward the door. Vivian, switch them, please! But no one believed her. 200 faces watched with pity or disgust. The news cameras captured every moment. Amanda Wellington, back from the dead, exposed as a cheater and a liar. They threw her out. The door slammed. Amanda sat on the front steps, sobbing. Rachel ran out after her. I believe you, Rachel said. No one else does. I know, but Amanda, think. Vivian had access to those test samples. She could have switched them. How do we prove it? The original samples, from the delivery, the ones I kept in my private storage. Will Marcus even look at them now? He will when we expose Vivian's entire plan, not just the murder attempt, the inheritance fraud. They drove to Rachel's clinic, spent the night running tests on the original blood samples, samples no one else had touched, samples that had been secured in cold storage for 9 months. The results came back at dawn. All three babies were Marcus's biological children, which meant Vivian had switched the test samples last night, deliberately, to destroy Amanda's credibility. She's not just trying to kill you, Rachel said. She's trying to destroy your reputation, so even if you survive, no one will believe you. Then we hit her where it really hurts, Amanda said. We proved she switched the babies. Rachel pulled up the original birth records. Baby 1, born at 11:47, O positive blood. Baby 2, born at 11:49, AB negative blood. Baby 3, born at 11:52, A positive blood. She compared them to the current medical files. The baby labeled Jackson has AB negative blood. That's baby 2. Owen, the true firstborn, is the baby labeled Owen. Amanda understood. She switched them to control the wrong heir. Exactly. If we can prove that, we prove the entire conspiracy. They contacted the FBI. Clean agents this time, ones who weren't compromised. Agent Daniel Foster listened to their story, reviewed their evidence. His expression grew darker with each revelation. This is one of the most elaborate conspiracies I've seen, Foster said. Medical identity fraud, attempted murder, inheritance fraud. We'll need to move carefully. Vivian has powerful connections, Rachel warned. The FBI agent we talked to before ended up dead. Foster nodded grimly. I know. Agent Martinez was a colleague. We've been investigating her death. There are indications someone high up was involved. How high up? Deputy director level. But we have new evidence now. A witness who's agreed to testify. Who? Patricia Mills. She's agreed to cooperate in exchange for reduced sentencing. They brought Patricia in, recorded her confession. Vivian Chase paid me to fake Amanda Wellington's death, Patricia said on camera. $750,000. She also paid me $200,000 more to switch the baby's identification bracelets. She wanted the second-born to appear as the firstborn. Why, Madama? Foster asked. To control the heir. She researched the bloodlines. The AB-negative baby would need rare blood donations, blood she could control access to. She wanted leverage. Foster looked at Amanda and Rachel. We have her. When do we move? Tonight, there's one more gathering. A family dinner Marcus is hosting to introduce Vivian to business partners. We'll arrest her there. I want to be there, Amanda said. Absolutely not. Too dangerous. It's my life she tried to steal. I'm going to watch her fall. Foster considered, then nodded. Okay, but you stay back. No heroics. That evening, Amanda returned to the mansion. This time, she walked through the front door with FBI agents. Marcus stood in the living room with Vivian, Theodore, Eleanor, and several business associates. He saw Amanda and FBI agents. What's happening? Mr. Wellington, Foster said. We have a warrant for Vivian Chase's arrest. What? On what charges? Attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud. Vivian backed away. This is insane. Marcus, tell them. Foster nodded to another agent. They played Patricia Mills's confession on a laptop. The room watched in silence as Patricia described the entire plot. The fake death, the body swap, the bracelet switch. Marcus's face went gray. You tried to murder her? You switched my children's identities? I did it for us. Vivian's composure shattered. Amanda was in the way. She was weak. She would have held you back. I saved you. You made my children motherless. They have me. I'm better for them. You're insane. Rachel stepped forward with her evidence. There's more. Last night's paternity test was fraudulent. Vivian switched the DNA samples. All 3 children are Marcus's biological children. She displayed the original test results. Marcus stared at the proof, then at Vivian. You made me think Jackson wasn't mine? It was the only way. You were believing her. I had to destroy her credibility. By destroying my son's legitimacy? Vivian grabbed a knife from the dining table. The room froze. If I can't have you, she said, voice shaking, nobody can. She ran at Amanda. Marcus stepped between them. The knife plunged into Marcus's shoulder. He fell. FBI agents tackled Vivian. She screamed the whole time. I loved you. I did everything for you. She doesn't deserve you. Amanda dropped to her knees beside Marcus. Call an ambulance. Blood spread across his white shirt, but he was conscious. Why did you do that? Amanda asked, pressing her hands against the wound. Because I already failed you once, Marcus said. I wasn't going to fail you again. Paramedics arrived, loaded Marcus into an ambulance. Come with me, Marcus said to Amanda. Are you sure? Please. She climbed in beside him. As they drove away, Amanda looked back. Vivian was being loaded into a police car, still screaming. The mansion was swarming with FBI. 9 months ago, Amanda had died in an ambulance. Tonight, she came back to life in one. Sometimes she thought the universe has a sense of irony. Marcus Wellington's shoulder required minor surgery. The knife had missed major arteries. He'd be fine. Physically, at least. Emotionally was another story. Amanda sat beside his hospital bed. They'd barely spoken since the ambulance. What do you say to someone who'd mourned you, moved on, then discovered you were alive? I'm sorry, Marcus said finally. I know. I should have looked harder. Should have known something was wrong. You saw a body, DNA tests, death certificates. You had no reason to doubt. I had every reason, because I knew you, and you would never give up without a fight. Amanda said nothing. I was relieved, Marcus admitted. When they told me you were dead, for just a moment, I felt relieved, because our marriage was struggling and I didn't know how to fix it. and death gave me an escape. I know. You do? I felt it too, the distance between us. You were always working, always traveling with Vivian. I was always at the hospital. We were becoming strangers. But I loved you. Past tense? Marcus closed his eyes. I don't know. The woman I loved died. And the woman sitting here now, she's different. Harder. Colder. I died, Marcus. I came back from death. That changes a person. Can we try again? Us? Amanda was quiet for a long time. She'd asked herself this question repeatedly. Could she forgive him? Could they rebuild? No, she said finally. Marcus's face fell. Because we're both different people now, Amanda continued. You said it yourself, I'm not the woman you married. And you're not the man I married. We can't go back. What about the children? They're yours as much as mine. We'll share custody. I want to be a real father, not just weekend visits. Then be one, show up, be present. That's what they need. Marcus nodded, tears forming. I'll do better, I promise. Over the next few weeks, the legal proceedings unfolded. Vivian Chase was charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and accessory to murder in Agent Martinez's death. The trial revealed shocking connections. Vivian's uncle was FBI Deputy Director Robert Chase. He'd ordered the hit on Agent Martinez to protect his niece. He was arrested and charged separately. Patricia Mills received 8 years in exchange for her testimony. Dr. Morrison from St. Catherine's lost his medical license. Vivian was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. During sentencing, she'd screamed at Marcus, I loved you. Everything I did was for us. But Marcus hadn't attended. He was home with his children. Theodore Wellington died 3 months after the truth came out. But before he died, he changed his will. No more eldest male heir. The estate would be split equally among all 3 grandchildren. Jackson, Owen, and Lily would each inherit $1.4 billion at age 30, managed by independent trustees until then. The bracelet mix-up was publicly corrected. The true birth order was restored. Jackson was Jackson. Owen was Owen. Not that it mattered anymore. They were all heirs now. Amanda returned to work at Mercy General. She was promoted to chief of surgery. The hospital issued a formal apology for Patricia Mills's actions and established new protocols to prevent medical identity fraud. Amanda founded a nonprofit to help other victims of medical identity theft. She called it Hidden Victims Project. In the first year, they helped 47 women who'd been similarly erased. Marcus sold his company, donated $200 million to Amanda's foundation. He started a small carpentry business, working with his hands for the first time in his life. It's honest work, he told Amanda during a custody exchange. I forgot what that felt like. They established a routine. Amanda had the children during the week. Marcus took weekends. They attended school events together, awkward but cordial. 1 year after the engagement party, they finalized their divorce. Eleanor cried but understood. You're both different people now. We are, Amanda agreed. But you'll always be my daughter-in-law. Divorce doesn't change that. Amanda hugged her. Eleanor had stood by her through everything. Some bonds survive even death. On Jackson's 2nd birthday, they held a party at the park. Just family. Amanda, Marcus, Eleanor, and the children. Jackson ran through the grass, chasing bubbles. Owen played in the sandbox. Lily ate cake with her hands. Normal, beautiful, ordinary. Marcus and Amanda sat on a bench, watching. Are you seeing anyone? Marcus asked. That's not really your business anymore. Right, sorry. But yes, his name is David. He teaches kindergarten. He's kind. He shows up when he says he will. Marcus nodded, hiding his pain. You deserve that. What about you? Therapy. Lots of therapy. Learning to be alone. Learning to be better. They sat in comfortable silence. Do the kids know, Marcus asked, about what happened? Not yet, when they're older. What will you tell them? The truth. That people make terrible mistakes. That obsession isn't love. But that family protects each other. Even broken families? Especially broken families. Lily ran over, cake smeared across her face. Mama, Dada, look! She'd drawn a picture. 4 stick figures holding hands. Mama, Dada, and 3 children. That's beautiful, baby, Amanda said, pulling her daughter close. Marcus watched them. His wife who wasn't his wife anymore. His daughter who'd almost grown up without her mother. His sons who'd been pawns in someone else's game. I miss you, he said quietly. Every day. Amanda didn't look at him. I know. Will there ever be a day? No. The word was gentle but final. Because I learned something these past 2 years, Amanda continued. I don't need you to complete me. I'm complete on my own. And so are our children. But I'll always be their father. Yes. And you'll always be in our lives, just not the way you wanted. Marcus accepted that. He had to. I'll take what I can get. The party continued. Children laughed. Adults smiled. The sun shone. From a distance, it looked perfect. A happy family celebration. Up close, the cracks showed. But the cracks were okay. They'd been broken and rebuilt in a new shape. Different. Imperfect. Real. That night, after Marcus left with the kids for his weekend, Amanda stood on her small balcony. Not the mansion, a modest house in a normal neighborhood, but it was hers, earned, fought for. She thought about the past 2 years, about dying and coming back, about discovering that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like beautiful women in Valentino gowns. Sometimes they look like trusted hospital administrators. And sometimes the person you need to be afraid of is the one you already know is dangerous. The problem is recognizing the danger before it destroys you. Amanda had learned that lesson the hard way, but she'd survived, more than survived. She'd reclaimed her life, her children, her identity. She was Dr. Amanda Wellington, trauma surgeon, mother of 3, survivor, and no one would ever erase her again. 5 years after Amanda came back from the dead, her daughter Lily asked a question. Mama, why don't you and Daddy live together? They were in Amanda's kitchen. Lily was 7 now, old enough to notice, old enough to ask. Amanda had been preparing for this conversation for years. She sat down at the table and patted the chair beside her. Because sometimes, Amanda said carefully, people change. Daddy and I loved each other once, but we became different people. Did Daddy do something bad? Amanda chose her words carefully. The truth, but age-appropriate. Daddy made a mistake, a big one. He wasn't there when I needed him most, and by the time he realized his mistake, we'd both become different people. Do you still love him? Amanda considered this. Did she? I love the man he used to be, and I love the father he is now, but the Marcus I married doesn't exist anymore. That's sad. It is, but sad doesn't mean bad. Sometimes sad things teach us important lessons. What lesson? Amanda pulled her daughter close. That love isn't enough by itself. You also need trust, and showing up, and choosing each other every single day. Lily thought about this. Daddy shows up now. He does. He learned. That's good. Miss Vivian tried to hurt you, didn't she? Amanda went still. They'd never told the children the full story. What makes you say that? I heard Grandma Eleanor talking to Aunt Rachel. She said Miss Vivian was a bad person who tried to make you go away. Amanda took a breath. The truth. Always the truth. Yes, Miss Vivian did try to hurt me. She wanted my life, my family, my children. Why? Because she confused wanting something with deserving something. She thought if she could just have Daddy and you kids, she'd be happy. But happiness doesn't work that way. How does it work? This was the moment, the wisdom moment, the lesson Amanda had learned through pain. Happiness, Amanda said, comes from knowing who you are, not from taking someone else's life. Vivian tried to become me instead of becoming herself, and that's why she lost everything. What did you become? Amanda smiled. Myself, the truest version of me, stronger, braver, scarier than I ever knew I could be. You're not scary, Mama. I'm scary to people who try to hurt my children. Lily giggled, then got serious again. Jackson says we're rich, that Grandpa Theodore left us lots of money. He did. You, Jackson, and Owen will each receive your inheritance when you're 30. That's a long time. Yes, but I'm glad Grandpa Theodore set it up that way. Money can be dangerous if you get it too young. How? Another lesson that money makes everything seem possible. It makes you think you can buy happiness or love or respect. But those things aren't for sale. You have to earn them. How do you earn love? By being trustworthy, by showing up, by choosing the people you love every single day. Lily hugged her mother. I choose you every day, Mama. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. I choose you too, baby, every single day. Marcus picked up the children an hour later for his weekend. Lily ran to him excitedly. Daddy, Mama told me about choosing people. Marcus glanced at Amanda. Oh? She said you have to choose your family every day, so I choose you, Daddy. Marcus knelt down and hugged his daughter. I choose you too, Lily Bean, every single day. After the children left, Amanda stood in her quiet house. 5 years had passed, 5 years of healing, of rebuilding, of learning who she was without Marcus, without the identity of wife. She'd learned something profound in those years, something she tried to teach her children, though they were still too young to fully understand. The world will try to define you, will try to put you in boxes. Wife, mother, doctor, victim, survivor. But you are more than any single label. You are the sum of your choices, and the most important choice you make is who you become after trauma tries to destroy you. Amanda had chosen to become stronger. Not bitter, wiser, not vengeful. She'd chosen to forgive Marcus, though not forget, to co-parent with grace, to build a new life that honored the old one without being trapped by it. And most importantly, she'd chosen to teach her children that love and trust are actions, not feelings. You don't just feel them, you do them. Every day, in small ways and large. That's what Vivian never understood. She'd felt obsessed, felt entitled, felt jealous, but she'd never learned to do the work of love, the showing up, the sacrificing, the choosing. Amanda's phone rang. David, her boyfriend of 3 years. They'd met at a parent-teacher conference. He taught kindergarten, played guitar, made her laugh. Hey, she said, smiling. Hey yourself. How'd the conversation with Lily go? She asked why Marcus and I are not together. What did you tell again? The truth, that people change, that love requires more than feelings. Heavy stuff for a 7-year-old. She can handle it. She's strong. Like her mother. Amanda smiled. David understood her, knew her history, loved her anyway, not because of her trauma, but despite it. He saw her as whole, not broken. Dinner tonight? He asked. Your place or mine? Mine. I'll cook. You hate cooking. I know, but I choose you, every day, even when it means cooking. Amanda laughed. That's what love looked like. Not grand gestures, not dramatic sacrifices, just everyday choices. Small, consistent, real. I choose you too, she said. After they hung up, Amanda went to her office, opened her laptop. Her foundation had just helped another woman, Lisa from Ohio. Her abusive ex-husband had convinced doctors she was mentally ill, had her committed, tried to make her disappear. Amanda had helped Lisa escape, had connected her with legal aid, had given her a job at the foundation. This was Amanda's real inheritance. Not money, not a mansion, but the ability to help others who'd been erased. To say, I see you, I believe you. You're not crazy, you're not alone. She typed an email to Lisa. How are you adjusting? The response came quickly. Better, scared, but better. Thank you for believing me when no one else did. I've been where you are, Bessing, Amanda wrote back. I know how it feels to be erased, but here's what I learned. They can take your home, your money, your identity, but they can't take your truth. Hold on to that. Fight for that. Your truth is the one thing that's truly yours. This was the wisdom she'd gained, the lesson she'd paid for with 9 months of her life. Truth survives, even when buried, even when denied. Even when the whole world says you're crazy, your truth survives. And if you hold on to it long enough, eventually the world catches up. Amanda saved the email, closed her laptop, looked at the photos on her wall, her children, her mother, who'd died when Amanda was young, Eleanor, her mother-in-law, who'd stood by her, Rachel, her best friend, who'd believed when no one else did. These were her people, her family. Not all by blood, but all by choice. That's what family really meant. Not biology, not legal documents, but choice. Choosing each other. Every single day. 10 years after Amanda Wellington came back from the dead, she sat in a university lecture hall. She'd been invited to speak at a medical ethics conference. The topic, patient rights in medical identity fraud. 1,000 doctors, nurses, and administrators filled the auditorium. Amanda stood at the podium, 45 years old now, silver streaking her dark hair. She refused to dye it. She called it her truth color. "Thank you for inviting me," she began. "My name is Dr. Amanda Wellington. 10 years ago, I was declared dead. My death was faked by a hospital administrator and a woman obsessed with my husband. I spent 4 months in a coma, registered as a Jane Doe while my family mourned someone else." The room was silent. "I'm not here for sympathy," Amanda continued. "I'm here to talk about systemic failures. Because what happened to me shouldn't have been possible. But it was, and it's still happening." She displayed statistics. Over 2 million Americans affected by medical identity theft annually. Thousands of Jane and John Does lost in the system. Families searching for missing loved ones who are actually alive, trapped in facilities. Their identities erased. The Hidden Victims Project has helped 712 people in the past 10 years, Amanda said. 712 people who were erased, some by abusive partners, some by family members who wanted their money, some by administrative errors that snowballed into nightmares. She told stories, changed names, but the horrors were real. A woman declared dead so her husband could collect life insurance. A man committed to a psychiatric facility by his business partner who wanted his company. An elderly woman whose children had her declared incompetent to steal her estate. "These aren't rare cases," Amanda said. "These are symptoms of a broken system. A system that values efficiency over verification, that trusts documents over people, that makes it easier to erase someone than to protect them." The doctors listened, uncomfortable. This was their world, their system. And it had failed spectacularly. "So what do we do?" Amanda asked. "How do we fix this?" She outlined reforms, biometric verification, better tracking systems, independent advocates for Jane and John Does, mandatory notification when someone is transferred between facilities. But more than policies, Amanda said, we need culture change. We need to see patients as people, not cases. We need to verify, not just trust. We need to ask, does this make sense? Is there another explanation? She paused. Dr. Rachel Brooks, my best friend, saved my life because she asked those questions. She noticed inconsistencies, kept records, didn't accept the official story. Every doctor in this room should aspire to be like her. Rachel was in the audience. She wiped her eyes. After the speech, doctors lined up to talk to Amanda, to share their own stories of near misses, of cases that bothered them, of patients they had saved by asking questions. One young resident approached. "Dr. Wellington, I had a Jane Doe last month. Something felt off about her transfer papers. I delayed it, insisted on more verification. Turned out she wasn't Jane Doe at all. She was Marissa Henderson, a missing person. Her boyfriend had tried to make her disappear. You saved her life," Amanda said, "because of your foundation, because of your story. I knew what to look for." This was the ripple effect. Amanda's trauma had become someone else's salvation. Her nightmare had prevented others' nightmares. That evening, Amanda had dinner with her children. Jackson, Owen, and Lily were 12 now. Tall, smart, beautiful. They went to a modest restaurant, not expensive. Amanda had money now, her inheritance, her salary, her foundation work. But she'd learned that expensive didn't mean good. "Mom," Jackson said, "I saw your speech online. It was awesome." "You watched it?" "We all did," Owen added. "In health class. Mr. Peterson showed it as an example of medical ethics." Amanda smiled. "What did you think?" Lily answered. "I think it's cool that something bad that happened to you helped other people. Like, you turned your pain into purpose." Amanda's chest tightened. Her daughter understood. "That's exactly right," she said. "Trauma either destroys you or defines you. You get to choose which." "Did you ever want revenge?" Jackson asked. Like, did you want to hurt Miss Vivian back? Amanda considered this honestly. At first, yes, I wanted her to suffer like I'd suffered. But revenge is a trap. It keeps you tied to your trauma. I wanted freedom more than I wanted revenge. Is she still in prison? Owen asked. Yes, she has 32 more years. Do you ever think about her? Sometimes. I wonder if she understands what she did, if she's grown, changed, learned. Do you think she has? I hope so, not for her sake, for mine. Because if she's still the same person, then my suffering taught her nothing. And I want it to mean something. This was the truth Amanda had learned. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do with it. She could have become bitter, vengeful, paranoid. Many trauma survivors did. No one would blame her, but she'd chosen differently. Chosen to heal, to help, to teach. Because if her pain could prevent someone else's pain, then it wasn't meaningless. It was purposeful. After dinner, they walked through the park, the same park where Amanda had watched Marcus from a distance 5 years ago, too afraid to approach. Now Marcus met them there. He came every Sunday for family time. He and Amanda weren't together, never would be. But they were friends, co-parents, respectful and kind. Hey kids, Marcus greeted them. How was dinner? Good, Lily hugged him. We talked about Mom's speech. Marcus looked at Amanda. I watched it too. You were brilliant. Thank you. I'm proud of you for turning something so horrible into something meaningful. Amanda smiled. We all did. You donated millions to the foundation. You've helped countless people. It's the least I could do. They watched the children play. Jackson kicked a soccer ball. Owen climbed trees. Lily did cartwheels. Do you ever regret it? Marcus asked quietly. Not taking me back? We could have tried again. Amanda shook her head. No regrets. We're better as friends than we ever were as spouses. I still love you, you know. I know, and I love you too, but love isn't enough. It never was. What is enough? Amanda thought about David, about the life she'd built, about waking up every morning knowing she'd chosen it, not fallen into it. Choosing yourself, she said, every day, and then choosing someone who respects that choice. Marcus nodded. He understood. He'd learned the same lesson, though differently. He'd learned that you can't love someone you don't respect. And he hadn't respected Amanda when they were married, not really. He'd seen her as support staff, not partner. As mother and wife, not as fully herself. Now he saw her clearly. Too late for them, but not too late for him to be better. With their children, with himself, with whoever came next. The sun set. The children reluctantly stopped playing. Time to go home. Amanda hugged her kids goodbye, watched Marcus drive away with them for his week. Then she walked to her car where David waited. How was it? He asked. Good, really good. Tell me about it over ice cream? You know the way to my heart. They drove to a small ice cream shop, sat on the patio, talked about everything and nothing. This was happiness, Amanda realized. Not drama, not intensity, not grand gestures, just ice cream on a Sunday evening with someone who saw you, really saw you, and chose you anyway. Not despite your trauma, not because of your trauma, but alongside it. Because trauma is part of your story, but it's not your whole story. Amanda Wellington had been a wife, a mother, a doctor, a victim, a survivor. But more than any of those labels, she was Amanda. Complicated, flawed, strong, scared, brave, human. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 15 years after coming back from the dead, Amanda Wellington stood in a cemetery. She visited once a year, not for herself, for closure that never quite came. Two graves stood side by side, Patricia Mills and Vivian Chase. Patricia had died in prison 3 years ago. Heart attack. She was 61. Vivian was still alive, serving her sentence. But Amanda had bought a plot next to Patricia's. Morbid maybe, but symbolic. These women had tried to bury Amanda. Now she'd chosen where they'd eventually rest. Do you forgive them? A voice asked behind her. Amanda turned. Marcus stood there, holding flowers. He visited too, though less frequently. I don't know, and Amanda answered honestly. Some days yes, some days no. That's fair. They stood in silence. Why do you come here? Marcus asked. After everything? To remind myself they were human, not monsters, just broken people who made catastrophic choices. Does that help? Sometimes. Other times I just feel angry all over again. Marcus placed his flowers on Patricia's grave. I'm sorry I brought Vivian into our lives, into yours. If I'd seen her clearly, you saw what she wanted you to see. We all did. Even me at the beginning. But you didn't trust her. Intuition isn't the same as knowledge. I knew something was off. I didn't know what. They walked through the cemetery, past other graves, other stories, other losses. The kids ask about her sometimes, Marcus said. Vivian, they remember her vaguely as the bad lady who hurt Mom. What do you tell them? The truth, that she was sick, that obsession is a kind of sickness, that we should be grateful they have you. Amanda smiled slightly. They have you too. You're a good father, Marcus. I try. Finally. They reached Amanda's car. David was waiting, reading a book. David, Marcus greeted him. Marcus. They shook hands, cordial, respectful. This was Amanda's life now. Complicated but functional. Her ex-husband and her boyfriend, friendly at school events. Her children splitting time between two homes, her foundation expanding internationally. I have a question, Marcus said suddenly. Something I've wondered for 15 years. What? If you could go back, if you could prevent all of it, the fake death, the coma, the pain, if you could make it so none of it had happened, would you? Amanda considered this carefully. It was a question she'd asked herself countless times. No, she said finally. Marcus looked surprised. Really? After everything? Because of everything. That trauma made me who I am. Strong, clear, purposeful. Without it, I'd still be the woman who ignored her instincts, who prioritized being liked over being respected, who accepted less than she deserved. You almost died. But I didn't. I survived. And 712 other people survived because I did. Women and men who were erased, who found hope through my foundation. Would I trade my pain for their erasure? When you put it that way, trauma doesn't have to be meaningless, Amanda said. You can turn it into meaning. That's the choice. That's always the choice. She hugged Marcus goodbye, got in her car. David closed his book. Deep conversation. He asked if I'd undo everything. What did you say? That I wouldn't, that it made me who I am. David reached over and squeezed her hand. I love who you are. Even the broken parts? There are no broken parts, just parts you rebuilt stronger. Amanda kissed him, then drove home. That evening, her children came over for family dinner. All three of them, plus Marcus, plus David, plus Eleanor, plus Rachel and her husband Tommy, the former nurse who'd helped Amanda escape all those years ago. They'd become an unconventional family. Blended, complicated, but loving. Over pasta and wine, they told stories, laughed, argued good-naturedly. Jackson talked about college applications, Owen about his first girlfriend, Lily about her art project. Normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. This was the real victory, Amanda thought. Not destroying Vivian, not exposing the conspiracy, not even surviving, but building this messy, imperfect, loving family. After everyone left, Amanda and David cleaned up together. You're quiet, David observed. Just thinking about how lucky I am. You earned this. You fought for it. I did, but I couldn't have done it alone. David wrapped his arms around her from behind. You're never alone, not anymore. Amanda leaned into him, closed her eyes. For the first time in 15 years, she felt completely at peace. The question Marcus asked echoed in her mind. Would she undo it? No, because pain had taught her what happiness couldn't, that she was strong enough to survive anything, that she could lose everything and rebuild. That identity isn't what you're called, or where you live, or who you're married to. Identity is who you are when everything else is stripped away. And when Amanda had been stripped down to nothing, no name, no home, no family, she discovered something crucial. She was enough. Just herself. Just Amanda. That knowledge was worth every moment of suffering. Come to bed, David said gently. Amanda turned off the kitchen light, followed him upstairs. Tomorrow she'd wake up and choose this life again. Choose her work, her children, her love, her purpose. But tonight she'd rest, because even warriors need sleep. And Amanda Wellington had been a warrior long enough. 20 years after dying and coming back, Amanda Wellington received a letter. It came from a women's prison in upstate New York. The return address made her hands shake. Vivian Chase. Amanda sat at her kitchen table staring at the envelope. She hadn't spoken to Vivian in 2 decades. Had testified at her trial, then walked away. Let the justice system handle it. Now, apparently, Vivian had something to say. David found her there an hour later, the letter still unopened. You okay? He asked. Letter from Vivian. You don't have to read it. I know, but you're going to anyway. Amanda smiled. David knew her so well. I need to know what she wants. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single handwritten page. Dear Amanda, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But after 20 years in prison, I've had time to think. To really think about what I did, what I became. I was sick, obsessed. I confused wanting something with deserving it. I confused control with love. I destroyed your life. I destroyed Marcus's trust. I nearly orphaned your children. I can't undo that. But I can say this, you were right to survive. Right to fight back. Right to expose me. If you hadn't, I would have destroyed everyone, including myself. Prison saved me. Ironic, isn't it? Being locked up gave me freedom. Freedom from my obsession, from my delusion. I work in the prison library now. I teach literacy to other inmates. It's not much, but it's honest. It's real. It's the first real thing I've done in my life. I hear about your foundation, about the people you've saved. 712, last I heard. That's your real inheritance. Not the Wellington fortune, not the mansion, but 712 lives you gave back. I'm one of those lives. You gave me back to myself by stopping me. Thank you. I'll never contact you again. This is goodbye, Vivian. Amanda read it twice, then a third time. What does she want? David asked. Nothing, just to say thank you. For what? For stopping her. David read the letter over her shoulder. Do you believe her? I don't know. Does it matter? Doesn't it? Amanda thought about this. No. Whether she's changed or not doesn't affect my life. I stopped letting her have power over me the day I walked out of that courtroom. So what will you do? Nothing. She said goodbye. I'll let it be goodbye. Amanda folded the letter, put it in a box with other mementos from that time. Court documents, news articles, photos of her death and resurrection. She kept these things not to wallow, but to remember. To remind herself what she'd survived, what she'd overcome. That evening, Amanda's children came for dinner. They were 22 now, adults, independent. Jackson was in medical school, following his mother's footsteps. Owen was a lawyer, specializing in patient rights. Lily was an artist. Her paintings explored themes of identity and erasure. All three had been shaped by their mother's story. All three had chosen careers that honored what she'd survived. Mom, Jackson said over dinner, I've been thinking about my inheritance. All three children would receive their trust funds next year. Each would get $1.4 billion. What about it? Amanda asked. I don't need it. I'm going to donate most of it. Owen nodded. Me too. I'm keeping enough for security. Donating the rest to causes that matter. Lily agreed. Same. The money doesn't define us. What we do with it does. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. You three. You're my real inheritance. We learned it from you, Jackson said. You could have been bitter, vengeful, broken. Instead, you built something beautiful. We want to do the same, Owen added. Lily held her mother's hand. You taught us that trauma doesn't have to destroy you. It can transform you, if you let it. After dinner, they sat on the porch. Amanda's house was comfortable now, not huge, not ostentatious, just right. Marcus arrived with Eleanor. They'd come for dinner. This was their tradition, family dinner once a month, everyone together. I have news, Marcus announced. I'm getting remarried. The table went silent. Really? Amanda said carefully. Her name is Jennifer. She's a librarian. Quiet, kind, normal. He smiled. Nothing like Vivian. When's the wedding? Next month, small ceremony. I'd like you all to be there, including you, Amanda. Amanda considered. Okay. Really? Really. Marcus, I want you to be happy. I always have. He teared up. Thank you. That means everything. Eleanor raised her glass. To new beginnings. To second chances, Marcus added. To family, Amanda said, in all its complicated forms. They toasted, laughed, told stories. This was the real ending, Amanda thought. Not dramatic, not neat, just life. Continuing, evolving, healing. Later, after everyone left, Amanda and David sat on the porch swing. How do you feel about Marcus remarrying? David asked. Happy for him, really. He deserves love. You're not jealous? Of what? I have everything I want right here. David kissed her forehead. They swung gently, watching stars emerge. I've been thinking, David said, about us. What about us? He pulled out a small box. Amanda's breath caught. I know you've been married before, David said. I know it ended badly. I know you might not want to try again. But Amanda, I love you. I choose you. Every single day. And I want to keep choosing you. Forever. He opened the box. Simple ring. Elegant. Perfect. Will you marry me? Amanda looked at this man, this kind, patient, steady man, who'd loved her through her healing, who'd never asked her to be anything but herself. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. They kissed under the stars, in the quiet, no cameras, no drama, just two people choosing each other. This was the real inheritance, Amanda realized. Not money, not property, not revenge or justice, but this, the ability to love again, to trust again, to build again. Vivian had tried to take everything, but she'd failed, because the most important things can't be stolen, can't be faked, can't be erased. Love, trust, identity, truth. These things survive. Even death, even betrayal, even trauma. They survive because we choose them. Every day. In small ways and large. Amanda had died and come back. But the real miracle wasn't surviving death. It was learning how to live. Really, truly live. Not just exist. Not just survive. But thrive. That was her real inheritance. And it was one she'd pass to her children. And their children. And generations beyond. The DNA didn't just reveal the heir. It revealed what inheritance really means. Not money, not power, not legacy, but love, truth, choice. And those things are priceless.